Okay, and keep in mind that this session is being recorded. All right, before getting started, for those of you attending the live session, make sure that you sign in using your first name. Send me a private chat with your first and last name so that I can make sure that you're getting extra credit. Please make sure that you mute your microphone in order to reduce background noise so that you're not disturbing others. And if you can't, for some reason, access all of the navigation buttons, make sure that you exit the full screen. I know that helps me a lot to be able to access all the navigation buttons. And if you want to use your audio, again, make sure that you're muting it. You have yourself muted when you're not using it. But if you want to check your audio right now, you could say hi to me so I can hear you and make sure that it's working. I also want to check with you all. Can everybody hear me? Send me a chat or just say yes that you can hear me.
Yes.
I can hear you.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody right now in case you don't know how to do that. And then if you do want to speak, send me a chat and say, hey, can you unmute me, or how do I? You can unmute yourself, but if you don't know how to do that, I will go ahead and take care of that as well. So again, make sure you send me a private chat right now. That has your first and your last name, if you don't want that to be seen on the screen, because other students can see who's joined. But again, make sure that you send me a private chat message if you don't want to put your first and last name up on the participant screen. That way I can apply the extra credit for you. All right, thank you, Jennifer. I got it. Thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, some of the expectations for this class, or for this study session. Make sure you participate and you ask questions. That's what we're here for. We're here to help everybody who's in the program, who's in this class. So make sure that you do ask questions when appropriate. And be respectful of others, please. We all kind of have different questions and we learn at different speeds. So please be thoughtful of other people as they ask questions, okay? Thank you. Okay, our agenda for today, it's going to be broken up. This is going to be broken up into about 15-minute increments. Sometimes we can go a little bit longer, sometimes we can go a little bit shorter. But today's agenda is how to post a discussion. And again, for those of you who just joined in, this is going to relate to U.S. Government Semester 1 and U.S. Government Quarter 2. But about posting a discussion, you're going to see this in a lot more of your classes. So even if you accidentally tuned into the wrong study session, stay tuned for this part. So we're going to go over how to post a discussion for all semesters and quarters. This is valid. We're going to review 1.2.2 types of governance discussion. So let's say even if you've done this assignment, you can go back and see like, oh, okay, I got 100%, I did it right. Or you could say, oh, I didn't get 100% on this assignment. I can go back and still get full credit for it. So keep that in mind. Part 2, we're going to do a Q&A, time for questions, question and answers. Part 3, we're going to go over assignment 7.4.1 in the U.S. influence on world stage. And then for part 4, we're going to do Q&A again. So how to post a discussion. Again, you're going to see this not just in U.S. Government Semester 1 and 2 or Quarter 1 and 2. You're going to see this in a lot more classes as we roll out. We're rolling out a lot of newer classes. I don't know, for those of you who have been here a little bit longer, you're seeing that the class formats are changing. And these discussion posts are becoming more and more evident in these classes. So it's really important for us to discuss this discussion posts. These discussion posts, they require a response to a question or a response to another student, and they are created basically to help you guys realize that you're not alone out there. There are other students, there are other people that are also in the same class, and maybe you're noticing in some of these discussion posts that you have very similar ideas to other students, or maybe you have different ideas, but at least you're seeing that there are other people in these classes. You're not trucking through this class alone. Plus, you know, you have your teacher, your mentors, your academic coaches. Everybody's here to help. So this is, I know this is a little bit difficult to see, and we're going to take a look a little bit closer at what a discussion post looks like. But the image that you see on your screen, it's a discussion post. This is for U.S. government semester 1. I know it's really little, but we'll go and we'll take a look again. But basically, you're given a question, and you have to go in and respond to that question. And then you have to also create a respectful, thoughtful response for another student who has answered the same exact question. So that's an overall, that's a view of the discussion post. So in order to create a response, you have to go to the assignment. And again, we're going to do this in a class. I'm going to show you, but these are just the screenshots to prepare you for what that looks like once we go into the actual assignment. So you're going to go to the assignment. So you've clicked on the assignment, you've read the instructions, and then you're going to click on New Thread. If you look in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, you should see a screenshot of what that looks like, and I've highlighted where it says New Thread. So you're going to create a new thread, and I know that might not be super you know, evident or obvious that that's where you create a new post, but you click on New Thread, and then you're going to see at the bottom of the screen there is a, sorry, I'm not sure how somebody got to do that on the screen. That's awesome though. There is a way to respond. So down there, you'll see a box pop up. So at the bottom of the screen, you're going to see an image of what the box looks like. It's highlighted. And hold on just a second. I'm going to remove the annotation. All right. So you're going to see that box pop up when you click on Create New Thread. You're going to type your response into the box, and then you're going to click on Post to share your response. So you see that down at the bottom there. All right, give me just a second. Now I answer a chat here. Sorry, my screen is not behaving as I want it to.
Hey, Marianne.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Jennifer, for telling me that about the pen. We don't need to draw on the screen. I'm going to see if I can remove that so that it's not drawing on the screen. So give me just a second. I'm going to go ahead and try to do that.
And the chair tied up. Yep. He won't stop getting out.
Okay. All right, sorry everybody. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the posting a discussion. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually do this using activity 1.2.2 as an example. So let's take a look at that. All right, so I am logged in as a student, and I'm in U.S. Government Semester 1. I'm going to, and I don't know if you all know how to do this, but if you want to only see if you only want to see the assignments you submitted and not the actual work you did, there is this hide completed button right here. So you can click on it and you can see the lessons as well as the activities. So you can see lesson 1.1, Introduction to Government and Politics. And you can, if you click on hide completed over here, you can just see the assignment. So that's kind of a nice way to just take a look at your grade book, basically. You know, what grade you did, if anybody's left comments for you, for example. Here, there's a comment on this assignment. what's coming up in week 2, week 3, as far as assignments are concerned. And then, you can see that your final exam is at the end. So that's just a nice way to be able to look at your screen in different ways. You can see everything, or you can just see your assignments and your grades. All right. So we're going to go into 1.2.2 types of government discussions. Before I actually submit the discussion, I'm going to show you how to read feedback. So let's say that you've already done this assignment and or any assignment, and you scored less than you expected. Well, your teachers often leave feedback for you. And if you click up here on this button that says I for information, you're going to get a feedback screen, and then you just scroll down and you'll see feedback right here. And for this assignment that I'm going to redo, it says, remember, and this is from your teacher, in order to earn full credit for this assignment, you need to submit your post and leave a comment on a peer's post with constructive, respectful feedback. So keep that in mind. And I'm going to go back. Oh, oops. Into types of government discussion. So for this assignment, the instructions say, imagine that you are in charge of your own country and you can choose what type of government should be set up. What type of government would you want to have in your new country and why? Based on these examples in the lesson, you can see what works and what has not worked. So remember, you always have to read the lesson before you complete the assignment. Write a discussion post that is at least 2 complete sentences. So you know how much you need to write and what you need to write about. And then comment on someone else's post. Everyone is expected to be positive and respectful with comments that help others reflect and learn. You are required to provide a positive comment on one of your classmates' posts. And then it says, refer to the rubric below to see how you will be graded. Click the new thread button to start your post. So up here, we're going to click on new thread, and a box shows up. And in this box is where you write your response. So I'm just going to make pretend I'm writing a response. I believe that the best form of government is, and then I'm not going to write the full response. Make sure you say why. I believe it is the best because, and again, you want to write at least 2 full sentences to receive the credit for this part of the post. And then down here, you're going to click on post. And that is how you post a discussion. It looks like somebody has a hand up, so let me take a look at who that is. Jennifer, did you have a question? You can unmute yourself, or you can send me a chat.
Okay, I'm not seeing exactly what you're doing on my screen. The only thing that shows
Okay.
microphone is, and then it says how to post discussion 1.2.2, and then it has the active students in the class. That's all I'm seeing.
Okay, hold on a second. Thank you for letting me know that. Let me see here. Okay, so it looks like I'm gonna have to start over on that one because I maybe have forgotten to share my screen. Let me take a look. Let's see. Yep, I did forget to share that screen. All right. And thank you very much. Let me know if for some reason I forget to share a screen. Can you all see that now? Can you see where it says, it has the screen itself, it says new thread, types of government discussion. Can everybody see that? Yes. Okay.
Yes, it pops up now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Like I said, feel free to let me know when that happens. I must have clicked on the wrong thing. Okay, so let's start over. So we are on the page, and we are, so let me go back. You guys did not see how to check for feedback either?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to the very beginning then. All right, so you should be able to see my screen, and it says U.S. Government Semester 1, and it has week 1. And what I was showing earlier was what I was showing earlier, and I forgot to share that screen, is this view of the page where you can click on this button here and you can hide or you can show assignments that have been completed, and this changes your view of what you see. So in week 1, you're seeing right now, you're seeing your lessons as well as your activities, and that might be a lot of information. So maybe you just want to see your grades and your activities. Click on this button and you can see just your grade. And then you can also see on the grades, if there's feedback, there's a feedback button right here. And in order to see that feedback from your teacher, you would need to click on the activity, this I for information button, and then you're going to scroll down and you're going to see feedback from your teacher. So if you have ever, scored low on an assignment, or you're like, I don't know why, I didn't score as well as I thought, or maybe like, oh, I did great, I want to see if my teacher gave me feedback, that is how you see your feedback on assignments. All right, so we are in this assignment, and we're going to create new thread. And that is how you create your post. And for this post, the assignment, I'm going to go ahead and cancel it for now. The types of government discussions, it gives you the instructions on what you need to do. It says, imagine that you are in charge of your own country and you can choose what type of government should be set up. What type of government would you want to have in your new country and why? So there's a question, and it says based on the examples in the lesson, you can see what works and what has not worked. Remember, the purpose of government is to regulate and protect the people. This says, write a discussion post that is at least 2 sentences, 2 complete sentences, and then comment on someone else's post. Everyone is expected to be positive and respectful with comments that help others reflect and learn. You are required to provide a positive comment on one of your classmates' posts. And then it says, refer to the rubric below to see how you will be graded, and click New Thread to start your post. So this is how you create your post. You click on New Thread, and you type in your response. So you would type in your response to the question. If you need a reminder of the question, you can just scroll up and it says, okay, I'm in charge of my own country and I can choose what government, okay, what type of government would I have in my new country and why? So you just click on the box and you type in your response. If I had my own country, I would choose so, and then of course you want to say why. Why would you choose it? I would choose this type of government because, and I'm not going to write the full thing. I'm just giving you an example of how to do it. So I have my at very least 2 sentences, and then I'm going to click on post right here. That will post. If you look down here, it will post my discussion to where everybody else has posted. Now, to respond to a post, remember, this is part of your grade, and your teacher sees whether you responded or not. So if you don't respond, you won't get full credit. If you responded to another student, then great, you're going to get full credit. So let's say I want to respond to Jasmine, but I want to see her full post. Okay, I just click on Show More, and that shows me her full post. And then I am going to click on Reply. I'm going to do it to this one instead. I'm going to hit Reply, and then I'm going to say, I'm going to give my response. I think this is a great response. The reason is because. So that's how you post a response to another student. And then, of course, you finish here by clicking on Post. And that is how you create a response and how you respond to another student. So let me get my PowerPoint back on the screen.
Now, will that say I did it in Google Docs? Now, will it do the dashboard?
Oh, so if you created your discussion in Google Docs?
Yes.
Okay, so if you created your assignment in something else besides posting it on the dashboard, and I definitely understand why. Some people they'd rather just be able to do that so they can edit their work. Also, mainly it's like an internet connection issue. Like if your internet fails and you're in the middle of a discussion post, it probably won't save. So let's go back to that screen. So let's say you want to submit something through the discussion post, but attach it as a document. You would just go to choose file down here, and then you would choose your file, and then you would just upload it. So let's pretend I am going to upload any document. You just click choose file, you find it, and then you post. And you click OK. And that's how you submit a document. If for some reason you pick the wrong document, you can just delete it here, delete attachment. So that's how you would do it if you wanted to create a document instead of an actual post directly in the dialog box. So very, very good question. Thank you.
Will it show up on the post that said? Okay, okay.
It will. It won't look like the other ones up here. It won't look like these because these are directly in the post, but it will appear as an attachment. Let's see if I can actually do this.
And the rest of the classmates are able to read what my answer was.
Yes, so everybody will be able to read your answers. So the purpose of the discussion posts is for everybody to be able to read one another's responses, and it's to create a community, because a lot of times you just kind of feel it by yourself, in online classes. And this way, it engages the teacher, it engages the students, so it makes you feel like you're part of a community. So I
just didn't want to add the attachment and want nobody able to read it.
Yeah, no, people will read it because they'll notice that they can't really respond to it if they can't read it, so they'll click on the attachment. So very good question.
Okay, thank you.
And I did have a student, Juana says that she has opened a few attachments. So don't worry, your response will be read. Someone will be like, oh, I wonder what this one says. I can't see it. It's kind of like a curiosity thing. So yeah, definitely people read it. And Juana says she has read ones that have not been, that have been attached to this document. So very good questions.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so let's head back to the presentation. Okay, we know how to create a post, how to respond to a post. We just did types of governance discussion. We have done this part already. You have learned how to reply to somebody. And some other tips for the discussion posts. Let me make sure I'm sharing the correct screen. Okay, some other tips for discussion posts. Again, make sure to look for teacher feedback. If you received a low scoring grade, we looked at how to do that, but here's a screenshot of a reminder of how to do that. All right. And so that concludes the discussion post. I know you guys have already asked a lot of questions, and that is great. I love when everybody interacts. But let's, if you have any other questions, feel free. This is the time to do it. Feel free to ask. So what questions do you have about how to complete a discussion post? For example, how is this graded? What questions might you have about this class? For example, can I redo assignments? And do you have any other questions? Now's the time to ask. If you have questions about how to get your transcripts or who to talk to, if you have questions about credits or adding a class. So let's go ahead and take this time, and we'll wait a couple of minutes here while some of you think of questions, and then we'll move on from there to our next assignment.
How many classes are we able to take at once?
That is a very good question. I believe you need to talk to your coach about that. I think that you can talk to them about how much you are able to take, you know, as far as your stress level and your load is concerned. But it becomes a problem if you take too many classes, because final exams have to be finished within a certain amount of time. And if you don't take those final exams because you're too busy trying to work on other classes, you end up losing credit for the class. So I've seen students take up to 4, but again, I can't tell you if that's what your academic coach is going to allow or not. So if you do need to contact your academic coach, feel free to do so. You can contact them through the phone. So you can call them, you can send them an email, and then of course you can send them a chat from your class, which actually this gives me this is a great opportunity to show some of you who may not understand or know that there's a chat system that you can use. So I'm going to go back here to my dashboard. So you should be able to see my dashboard. If for some reason you can't, let me know. And then there is, let's see, to send me a chat, first of all, you can just click right here on this picture of me or on contact details and click on this chat box. Why isn't it working? You should be able to click on this chat box and send me a chat, and for some reason it is not working right now, and it could be because I've logged myself in and out as the teacher and the student, so that might be part of the problem. You can also send an email. Yeah, I think that is part of the issue, is because I'm logged in as a teacher and as a student at the same time. But you could send the message here. Let's try it from the dashboard, from the main dashboard. Okay, so academic coach will appear right here where it says on the left-hand screen, your coach, academic coach demo. And there we go, it worked, yay. So I clicked on that chat, and then down here in the bottom right-hand corner, you can type your chat. Hi, I have a question about how many classes I can take at one time. And then you can click enter, or you can click on this arrow button here. So that is how you can contact your academic coach through the chat system. And of course, let's try me again. Let's try to contact me. U.S. Government Semester 1. And there it is. Yay, it's working. So that's how you can contact me. So if for some reason it's not working directly from your class, like it wasn't working for me, try another way, which is through the dashboard up here. And you can contact all your teachers this way. Like if you need to contact your English teacher, you can contact them that way. You need to contact your U.S. history teacher, which is me, the same way. All right. So have any of you never seen this chat before? Just out of curiosity, is this your first time with the chat system? If this is your first time with the chat system, send me a private message. I won't say your names or anything, but I'm just curious to know how many of you have just discovered the chat system because of this lesson. Oh, good. Someone says they actually use it a lot. Another person says, I always email. It takes a little longer. Yeah, it does. It depends. Some days it can be, like for me as a teacher, some days I might be not in my class, but I'm grading, and I'm not grading, but I'm working on something else, and I get an email from a student. Sometimes that helps, but sometimes I'm just grading and the chats come up. So it depends on what your academic coach or what your teacher is doing at the time. The nice thing about chat messages is that someone's always going to see it. So let's say it's midnight and you're working on something and you have a question. Well, it might not get answered right away, but the next morning when your coach or your teacher comes in, they're going to be able to answer that. Same thing with email, but it's a matter of preference. When I'm working with somebody on a class, like if I'm trying to help them with an assignment, I prefer to work through chat with them just because it's instant. Email, you got to wait for somebody to receive it, and then you got to refresh your page, and then you got to type your response, and you got to hit send. So this is just a much faster way to do it. Okay. Oh, well, good. I'm glad you're attending the session. You said it's your first time. Welcome. Okay, so any other questions about the class, program, this particular assignment? Any questions about that? Okay, we'll have another, you'll have another opportunity at the end of this class and, to ask questions. So let's just go ahead and move on to the next assignment. I'm gonna pull up the screen here. Give me just a second. All right, so we are going to move on to a different assignment. It's, excuse me, 7.4.1, the U.S. influence on the world stage. So if you're in semester 1, this is towards the end of the class. So if you haven't gotten there yet, this is great. You have a great resource for when you do come across this assignment. If you've already have done it, maybe you can go back and redo it if you didn't get 100%, and you now have a little bit of a help. So this is a written assignment. It needs to be 2 paragraphs in length. You'll notice that in your class there are quite a bit of like auto-graded assignments, quizzes you can call them, and then there's also the written assignments that take more time, and they definitely are sometimes a little bit more difficult. So I want to be able to help you with this assignment in particular. The assignment instructions say for this activity, oh, and I did forget to mention this is also in U.S. government semester, or sorry, U.S. government quarter 2. So if you're in quarter 2, this is also towards the end of this class. The instructions say that for this activity, and you can follow along as I read it. Oh, we got a chat here. Oh, perfect. Someone says they're working on it now. Awesome. So be able to help you out. Glad this is going to be very, very purposeful. So for this activity, you will write 2 paragraphs to answer the following questions. Upload your response to the Dropbox. Refer to the rubric below to see how you will be graded. So we'll look at the rubric later, but just so that you know what a rubric is, for those of you, I know I keep saying the word, and some of you might be like, well, I don't know what a rubric is. A rubric is just a guide. Think of it as a guide that tells you what you need to have in your assignment to earn a certain grade. So the rubric is broken up into passing, excels, passing, and not passing, or needs improvement. And so you know that if you write 1 sentence for each response, you know exactly the grade that you're going to get, and you know exactly what you need to pass to get 100% on it. So the rubric just tells you, it's a guide, what should you do to get a certain grade. So that's what a rubric is. So here's the assignment instructions. In 1 paragraph, explain how the United States has influenced other nations. Make sure to include information about American political, economic, technological, or cultural developments. So that's paragraph 1. You need to say, explain how the United States has influenced other nations. In paragraph 2, you're going to write another paragraph explaining how the United States has been influenced by other nations. Make sure to include information about political, economic, technological, or cultural developments. So again, in 1 paragraph, you're explaining how the United States has influenced other nations, and then in the 2nd paragraph, you're saying how we have been influenced by other nations. So before starting this assignment, you should do the following. Again, everybody learns differently, so if you want to do it a different way, that's fine. But this is just like if you're struggling or you need tips on how to tackle this assignment, this is how I recommend doing it. First of all, make sure that you have read all of the lessons in Unit 7. The Unit 7 has to do about foreign policy, basically our relationships with other nations and vice versa. So how we relate to other nations. This entire unit is about foreign policy. You're gonna especially focus on lesson 7.4, the US influence on the world stage. And I've given you here specific pages to look at. And I forgot to mention this at the beginning, you don't need to take notes on this whole presentation on the study sessions, because we do record these, and the recordings are available. Later today they will be available, so you can send me a chat and say, hey, can I get that recording, because I want to review the assignments that we did. And then I can also, if you don't want to sit through the whole recording, I can send you the slides. So that's the nice thing about these study sessions, is they are recorded. You have access to the slides and you don't have to take notes. I mean, if you want to take notes, you're more than welcome to, but we're doing all the note taking for you. So focus especially on pages 4 through 12 of lesson 7.4. So let's go ahead and let's just take a look at the unit. We're not going to read through everything. I just want to show you through pages 4 through 12 of lesson 7.4. Okay, so I'm going to go to U.S. Government Semester 1. And I'm going to go down here to Introduction to Foreign Policy. I'm going to tell you this because I've noticed some students get a little bit confused about what to read and how to read through things. But let's say we start here with this unit on 7.1, lesson 7.1. And you're reading about foreign policy. So just remember to click through the pages. I know this is very basic information, but just make sure that you're reading through the entire lesson. I actually had a student this week who didn't realize that they had to read through the lessons. And I think what happened was they were getting here to page 1 and then just clicking next. And that actually just takes you to the assignment and it does not take you through the lesson itself. All right. So yeah, these lessons take you through foreign policy. And then when you get to lesson 7.4, the US influence on the world stage, I did say to focus on pages 4 through 12, but make sure you read the entire lesson, that you click through all the pages, you're reading everything, that you're doing the short answers, you're clicking on them.
However, we cannot begin to talk.
And you're listening. If you notice here, there's actual audio that you should listen to.
Our global power really took off during.
And this is just a quick history lesson on this assignment. It's background information on how and why the U.S. got so involved in foreign affairs and foreign policy. And this had to do with the end of World War II and basically our fight and several other democratic nations' fight against communism. And so we were trying to influence the world stage and other nations to look to democracy and not communism as an answer to government. So we're going to take a look at page 4. This is where a lot of the U.S. influence begins. Make sure that you watch this video. I've noticed that sometimes this play button doesn't always appear on videos, so whenever you see something that says watch the video clip, click on it, hover over it, and you will find here this play button. And what this is this is going to play a video of the influence that the American Revolution had on the rest of the world. So please make sure that you watch that video. We're going to skip over to page 5. And it asks you the question, how has our nation's foundation impacted other nations around the world? So there you go. There's one of your answers. And then the following page tells you about other revolutions that were inspired by the revolution in the United States and later on in France, but because we're looking at US government, we're going to focus, more on the US's influence. If you look at page 7, it says, how have our policies impacted the world? So you're going to look at immigration policies, economic policies, and technology. So there's some of your answers right there, how we have influenced the world. So you'll want to read through that. And then starting on page 8, it starts talking about how do other nations' policies affect the United States. So that's part of that. There's your answer, part of your answer for paragraph 2. So we know how we have influenced other nations, and now how have other nations influenced us? It talks about terrorism, how terrorism has influenced our policies, the global economy, so trade, and then labor costs, so doing business abroad. On page 9, we have the U.S. role and involvement in bilateral and multilateral agreements. It talks about what those mean. So these are agreements that we have with other nations. And then on page 10, there's an overview. It says click on the link. It talks about NAFTA, so how NAFTA has influenced us. And a little bit more about the North American Free Trade Agreement, the pros and cons, and how it's affected U.S. business. And then at the end on page 12, it talks about another a multilateral, so more than one nation, an agreement called the Kyoto Protocol. So you're going to learn about the Kyoto Protocol. And then that's the end of the lesson. So let's go back to the slides. Now that you have information about how this lesson is laid out and where everything's located, we can actually get to planning and writing this assignment. Okay. So we've taken a look at the assignment, and step 2, or not step 2, part 2, you're going to read the instructions, the assignment instructions, several times and ask yourself the following. So it's really common to read through something once and go, I don't get it, I don't understand it. As an adult, I have to read directions. I don't know how many of you have put IKEA furniture together or put anything together, and there's no way I'm just going to read it once. I have to read things several times in order to get an understanding. So keep that in mind, not just for this class, but in all classes. Read the instructions several times, and each time you're going to find something new, and then you're going to be like, oh, it clicks. So ask yourself, do I understand the instructions? If you do, awesome. If you don't, well, what do you do? What do you do if you don't understand the instructions? Okay, let's say you've already read it several times and you still don't get it, contact your teacher. You can always work on something else while you're waiting for your teacher to answer. So feel free to skip the assignment if you can, and start working on something else until you get a response from your teacher. Okay, next question to ask yourself is, do I understand this lesson? So did I understand any of the readings before that? What happens if you don't? Try reading it again, and then ask your teacher. And then ask yourself, well, what's required of this assignment? What is the length? How much do I need to write? What's the word count? Do I need 1 paragraph, 2 paragraphs? Do I need to have examples? Do I need to cite sources? So make sure you know what's required of the assignment. And then, do I need to do research? A lot of students in this class, and I want you to remember this, they go and they do extra research, and that's great. because if you're not understanding something, the internet is a valuable source of information. But at the same time, a lot of students I find are also just relying on outside resources or not relying on understanding the class. And that's not really going to help you if you're just, using other resources to answer your questions. And if you're just using other resources and not your class, it's also a type of cheating, and your teachers will know if you're just going online and looking for answers. So do you need to do research on an assignment? Unless it says do additional research, you do not. And in this case, you do not have to do any additional research. Everything is based on the answers from your class. So the instructions say for this activity, you will write 2 paragraphs to answer the following questions. Upload your response to the Dropbox, refer to the rubric to see how you'll be graded. So that's the assignment. So I want to take a poll really quick. Let's take a quick break. I want to know how many sentences are in a paragraph typically. Everybody has a little bit of a different expectation, but just so that you know what page I'm on, how many sentences do you all think are in a paragraph? It's okay to guess. So go ahead and answer through the chat box. You can answer either through the group messaging or in a private message if you want to remain anonymous. So how many sentences are typically in one paragraph? Okay, I have some great responses. Someone says 5, another student says 4 to 5, 3 to 7. And those are all great. Those are all great answers. I typically like to say 3 to 5 sentences. So you're all right. Good job, everybody. I like to say 3 to 5. It also depends on the length of your sentence. And the most important thing really for me is that you are covering every question that is being posed. But the rule of thumb is 3 to 5 sentences, complete sentences in a paragraph. So good job, everybody. Okay, so for this activity, you're going to write 2 paragraphs. We already are well aware of that. Part 1, in 1 paragraph, explain how the United States has influenced other nations. We already talked about that. And make sure it tells you what to include, what information to include. You can include anything about politics, economics, technology, or cultural. It doesn't have to be all of them. It could be any of those. And then part 2, explain how the United States has been influenced by other nations. Again, make sure to include information about politics, economics, technology, or culture. So what you're going to do is the very first step, you're going to take notes from the reading, and then you're going to begin your essay. So we're going to take a look at everything from taking notes to beginning your essay, how to get it started, to an example. So let me open that now. It's not wanting to open. Okay, I'm going to have to do this another way, so give me just a second. All right. So you want to take notes. And what I've done here is I may pretend I'm a student and I'm taking notes on a separate Word document. And what I did was I cut and pasted the instructions into this Word document so I know what to look for. So as I'm taking notes, I go back to the lessons. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview of how I would have done this. So I'm looking at page 4. And I've watched the video, and then I've gone on to page 5. And then I'm going to take notes. Okay, right, political. The American Revolution ideas of equality inspired other nations to have their own revolutions. This is on page 4 and 5. It influenced revolts around the world, like in Latin America. That's on page 6. I took other notes. Okay, there's also, we've influenced other nations through our immigration, economic policies, as well as technology research. So if you look, that's on page 7. So you would take notes on that. And then cultural developments. It doesn't really talk a lot in this lesson in particular. It does throughout the unit. But I'm okay if you have other information. If you have other ideas besides what you found in the lesson about how the United States has influenced other nations, I will accept it, because I think it's great that you are paying attention to world issues and U.S. current events. So feel free to add your own ideas to this part if you feel like it. Okay, so I've taken notes on how the United States has influenced other nations, and I'm going to take notes on how the U.S. has been influenced by other nations. And the same thing, I've grouped it into political, economic, technological, and cultural influences, you know, to include agreements like the Kyoto Protocol, which we looked at on the last page of the lesson, the global economy and labor costs on page 7. And it doesn't talk a lot about technology and cultural influences, but feel free to go ahead and add your own on that. So again, if we look at the lesson, those start about here on page 8. It says about terrorism, the global economy, and labor costs. So I'm taking notes. I've taken my notes, and I'm ready to write. And I've given you some sentence starters. So if you need sentence starters, because that's the most difficult part of starting any writing process, you could say the United States has influenced other nations in many ways. One example is, another example is, and you can start it that way. So that usually will help you. Sentence starters, I think, are great for, I wish I had a sentence starters in my master's program, because that's the hardest part for me, is just getting that first sentence done. You can start paragraph 2 by saying the United States has been influenced by other nations in many ways. So you're just adding been influenced by other nations. And then one example is, another example is, so that you have some sentence starters at least to help you get started there. And then you're going to write your 2 paragraphs. You're going to separate your 2 paragraphs, of course. You're going to put a space, an indentation here, or sorry, a space between the 2 paragraphs. And I have provided here an example of, I've provided a student example that was pretty well done, actually really well done. And you're more all than welcome to look at this if you are struggling about what to write and how to write it. And so I'll just read through it if you want to read along with me, and this will be available after the study session is over later this afternoon. So this is what the student wrote for their first paragraph. The United States has influenced other nations in many ways. After the United States had success in the American Revolutionary War, it influenced other countries to fight for independence. Some of the countries include Haiti, Mexico, Peru, Argentina, Colombia, and Brazil. Our technology has inspired other countries to build technology of their own. Some of our inspiring technology includes the atomic bomb, going to the moon, computers, and cell phones. Businesses such as Coca-Cola and McDonald's have also spread around the world. So yeah, you can't go anywhere without seeing Coca-Cola or McDonald's. I've been to many different nations. I've been fortunate enough to travel in my life, and it's the craziest thing to see how the spread of Coca-Cola and McDonald's everywhere. Even Kentucky Fried Chicken, it's everywhere. All right, the United States, the second paragraph. So how has the United States been influenced? The United States is also influenced by other nations. When terrorism happens in one country, it causes us to change many of our domestic and international policies. So for example, and this isn't part of the essay, but I mean, for those of you that are old enough to remember, like, you used to be able to walk with somebody up to their gate as they're departing a flight and hang out with them. And that is not a part of our culture anymore. You get dropped off at the airport and that's as far as your guest is going to go with you. But that's how much terrorism has caused us, has influenced us to change as a nation. At the airport, you have to go through all these security screenings and get your luggage checked. And terrorism has really affected us and mentally as well. We're, constantly on the lookout. And of course, physically, terrorism happens now in our nation. It's, a lot of you have probably grown up with it, but I grew up in an era where this wasn't a thing in our own backyard. So it's a pretty scary thing. So let's get back to the paper. Sorry. Other countries have influenced the United States with their culture, like food, clothes, music, art, and languages. And of course, we are influenced by technology from other nations as well as trade. Our nation imports a lot of products from China. And example, Amazon. If you order from Amazon, it's probably, if you're ordering something that's not American specific, it's probably made in China. A lot of the stuff I've ordered recently, I'm like, oh, this is from China. Okay. So we are influenced a lot by other nations. So there you have it. There is an example. And I'm going to go ahead because we are running out of time. I'm going to go ahead and open this up to questions. Before I do, really quick, just remember, as in the case of this example, I probably should have checked it over, but it needs to be edited. There are definitely some typos. It's not terrible. I wouldn't count them down because of it, but make sure that you go through and you always edit your work. All right, so any questions about this assignment? Please feel free to either chime in through the audio or through chat. Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Okay, if you do think of questions, feel free. I'm going to be hanging out here for a little bit. Do not hang up yet. I need to make sure I take roll. I did get Jennifer's last name. I need to write down everybody else's. But make sure that, again, you check your work to edit it. Also make sure, read it to make sure it makes sense. I've written something, I'm like, I think it makes sense. And then I go back like, oh gosh, this does not make sense. So when you submit work, always read over it. Type it the first time and then go ahead and read over it and do your editing. If you are the type of person that you feel like you really need somebody else to look at it to make sure it makes sense, please do that. I encourage you, it's always great to receive constructive criticism. Constructive meaning that it's going to help you improve, not that it's going to knock you down. So constructive criticism is very important for us to be able to accept criticism in the first place. And of course, read the rubric and the instructions to make sure you included everything to see how you will be graded. So what questions do you have about the activity? And what other type of study sessions would you like to see in the future for this class and for social studies? So as I call out your name, I'm going to make sure that I have everybody's last name. Okay, Jennifer, I got you. Thank you very much for attending. Beverly, I have your last name. Thank you for attending. Jennifer Diggs, you are up there with your last name. Thank you for attending. Juana, thank you for attending. Katie, thank you for attending. And let's see, I have one more person here that does not have their name. There is just a phone number on the screen. So if you could send me your name through a private chat, that would be fantastic. Okay, I still haven't received a message from phone number 216-767-9602. If that is your phone number, make sure that you send me a chat message and tell me who you are so that you can get extra credit. Or if you can't send me a chat message, send it to me from your class, because it could be a possibility that because you're on a phone, you're not able to send me a chat message. So feel free to send me a chat from your class when you get on your computer later. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for attending today. I'll hang out for another couple more minutes. If anybody has any additional questions other than that, feel free to exit the meeting. And thank you very, very much for attending. Everybody have a great weekend.